Now we're going to be moving into the difficult conversations exercise. This is a very impactful exercise for many people, but it's also quite complex. So we'll be going through the different steps that you need to take to make it clear for people. We start with the slide that has the book cover, Difficult Conversations, and also the competencies that we've been covering. And the idea here is that people will need to draw on everything they've been learning so far in order to do this exercise. You then can move into the next slide, which talks about the 3 levels. That in a difficult conversation, there actually are 3 different levels. The first is simply content, so what happened? The second is emotion, what are the feelings involved in a difficult situation? And then finally, the third is identity. What is the identity level? This will be a new idea for most people. And the question is, what's at stake? This can be broken down into some very core identity questions. Am I competent? Am I a good person? Am I worthy of love and respect? Sometimes these aren't really rational, but they really hit us at a gut level. You can give an example, I think there's one in your notes, or also from your own experience about a situation and how these 3 different levels came into play. Now you want to get people into pairs before you set up the exercise, so have them stand up, find a partner, sit down or stand, etc. And then you can explain the exercise. You're going to invite people to think of a difficult conversation, some situation that they feel like they should talk to someone, have that conversation about, but they kind of don't want to. There's some feeling of dread, or it's going to be too hard. It can be an active issue that they might want to have a conversation about, or it can be something in the past, some time where they wish they had had a conversation, but they didn't. So give them about 1.5 minutes. It's very important to explain that what we're going to be doing is not a role play. So you're not pretending to actually have the conversation. It's much more like, maybe I had a problem with Jane, something happened, I feel like I should talk to her about it, but I'm not sure how. So I call my friend John and I say, hey John, this thing happened with Jane. Would you just listen to me and be my sounding board while I think through all the different levels of this, so I'm really prepared to have this conversation. That's how it's going to work. So people have thought of their issue, conversation they might have, and you tell them person A is going to go first, and they're going to have 4 minutes. They're going to go through these different levels. So the first is the content, what happened. The second is what emotions are involved, feelings, etc. And then finally, the identity question. As they think about this and explore it, what's at stake for them according to these core levels of am I competent? Am I a good person? Am I worthy of love and respect? Please emphasize that they should not spend too much time on the content piece. People tend to get into a long storytelling mode. It's really just 1 or 2 sentences, just to set the stage. Then they can move to the emotions, a little more exploration there, and finally making sure that they get to this 3rd identity piece. So they'll go ahead, ring the bell, and then we move to the next step. Stay with person A. I want to emphasize that because they're used to switching. Stay with person A. Now we're going to imagine it from the other party's point of view. So in my example, like Jane. So if I imagine, I don't know for sure, but if I try to imagine, what happened from her point of view? What's the content piece? What might she be feeling around this? And finally, what might be at stake on this core identity level? So that they'll have 2 minutes to do that. And you go ahead. And then actually before you do that, you take this moment to do our shift to connect exercise. So you stop, first breath, simply settle the mind. Second breath, see similarities. And then finally, the 3rd breath, offer kindness. And from that place, they're able to imagine what might really be happening with this person. You ring the bell, and then you switch. Walk through step by step. You have a slide for person B. And again, you finish, stop, meta conversation. How was that? How was that to imagine these different levels for yourself and for the other person? I want to stop here a moment and say that we go very clearly, simply step by step, giving people just the right amount of information that they need to know, because it is a complex exercise. If you give them too much information up front, they get very confused. So it's really just step by step by step. And then after the meta conversation, a few comments, and then you can move into the slide that locates this exercise in the larger difficult conversations method, where they can decide if they want to have the conversation, etc. And this is the difficult conversations exercise. Thank you.